Now, before I get a lot of comments down below saying I'm a Sony fanboy, yes, I shoot with the Sony A7R primarily, but I used to shoot with Canon and Nikon before that. Hell, I even shot Pentax. So I've been using the Sony A7R Mark III pretty much since it came out. This camera has served me incredibly well for both photo and video, and all the content you've seen on my channel up until now has been shot with this camera. But if I'm not shooting with the A7R right now, what am I shooting with? Well, I guess you probably saw it in the title. This is my review of the Sony A6600. This camera doesn't make a lot of sense for most people. If it's your only camera, and you're just looking for something small and light to use as an everyday camera, something to vlog with, something to start a YouTube channel with like this one, I would recommend going with something like an RX100. If you want a little bit more flexibility in changing lenses, and you want a little bit of a better body, a little bit of a better build, go with something like the A6400. Which makes a lot more sense in almost every scenario. But if you're someone like myself, who already has an existing Sony full-frame camera, and you're looking for a B camera to be able to create online content with, the A6600 is a really great option. I wanted the speed and flexibility of mirrorless, and at the time that the third generation Sony cameras launched, it was basically the only option on the market that fit my needs specifically. Let's get the specs out of the way. This camera has a 24 megapixel APS-C sized sensor. The same sensor you'll find in all of the A6000 series cameras. Which, yes, means that it maintains that terrible rolling shutter of the previous 6000 series cameras.
As you can see here, the low light performance isn't great, but it definitely holds up, especially considering we're shooting at 32,000 ISO.
Quick editor's note here. For some reason, for most of the video, the audio was about 3 frames out of sync, and I had to fix that in post. I'm pretty sure this is due to the old microphone I was using, which was actually dying while I was recording that video and has since been replaced. I'm no longer having that issue now that I've replaced the microphone, and it didn't happen when I was using the camera's internal microphones either. So I'm pretty sure it was just that microphone dying and on its way out. So nobody else should have this issue. I just thought it was worth noting in case it does become a problem in the future. If you're one of the people who's bashing Sony about their color science in the past, the third generation has definitely improved a lot. Now I have a pillar for all of the cameras that I use. that's a little different from most online content creators. A big one for a lot of people is autofocus, and whereas the Sony cameras have fantastic autofocus, especially with the A7R IV and the A9 Mark II, having the lock-on eye tracking in both photo and video, that is competing with Canon's dual pixel autofocus and in some cases outperforming it, that's not something that mattered to me. The three biggest reasons that sent me to Sony in the first place was 1. The incredible low light performance that Sony is known for, 2. The lightweight and fast-paced kind of content creation that these mirrorless cameras offer, and 3. The ability to adapt lenses. Sony still has one of the shortest flange distances in the mirrorless space, making it incredibly easy to adapt lenses from other systems, like this tiny little Takumar. That versatility in adapting glass has been one of the biggest strong suits for this camera, and one of the big reasons that people like Mark Holtz are still using the A7S II. Now, if I already had the A7R, a full-frame 42 megapixel sensor, why did I downsize to an APS-C 24 megapixel? Number 1, reduced weight, because my A7R has been built up quite heavily, with a grip, massive lenses. A big addition to the 64 and 6600 is that flip screen on the top of the camera, which is fantastic. And I actually prefer this over the flip out screen that you'd have on something like Panasonic or Canon, because as Gerald Undone mentioned in one of his recent videos, it allows you to maintain eye line rather than staring off into the distance. So if all I wanted was the flip screen and a lighter body, why didn't I go with the 6400 like most people probably should? The reason I got the 66 over the 64 is because it has the new Z-type batteries, which are a little bit more convenient and do last quite a bit longer than the old FW50 batteries. But it was mostly the convenience of having the same type of battery and same type of lens mount as my A7R. It means I don't have to carry as much, don't have to have as many different adapters, and it means that if I'm working with both cameras at the same time, I get the exact same color science, making it a lot easier to cut between the different cameras in post. Overall, this camera just makes things a lot easier for me as a photo-based video creator, if that makes any sense. Having two cameras in the same system using the same type of batteries, and this one being lighter and having a flip screen. If the A7 III had the flip screen, I would have gotten that. The A6600 is basically just a smaller version of the A7 III with a flip screen. And for my needs, that fits perfect. For most people, if you're looking to get into photo, I would recommend the A7 III. If you're more towards the video side of things and you have a smaller budget, get the 6400. Or if you guys are really into video, go for the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. No questions asked. But for me, this camera was mostly about convenience and being able to record my YouTube videos with a lot of equipment I already had and maintaining compatibility with the system I'm already in. Well, I guess that's it for this video. If you guys liked it, drop a like, leave a comment down below, check out my Instagram, and hopefully you understand where this camera sits in the marketplace. And if you didn't learn anything from this video, well, at least there was some pretty footage to look at. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. This is what I have to deal with.